Hi, we're the mother-daughter grounded good wife duo. I'm Velia. I'm a teacher, author, public speaker. I call myself an expert on herstory unsanitized because I do this pretty popular talk called The Not So Good Life of the Colonial Good Wife, how women dealt with sex, menstruation, birth control, all that kind of taboo stuff. This is my daughter Eris.
And I'm a green witch, herbalist, and holistic nutritionist.
So people kind of know me as the Colonial Good Wife, and Eris used to own Grounded Holistic Wellness, but about 3 years ago we joined forces, and now we call ourselves Grounded Good Wife, and we teach a whole bunch of hands-on holistic workshops, normally in real life, and we offer herstory unsanitized presentations.
So tonight, we're going to teach you how to make an autumn root tonic, which actually tastes pretty nice, and it's a really nice way to keep your health up and get rid of seasonal allergies and a bunch of other things we'll tell you about in a little bit.
Right. So in spring and summer, the energy of a plant is above ground, creating the stalk and the leaves and the flower and the fruit and the seeds. But in fall, the nutrients have begun to kind of sink deep into the roots of the plant that have been colorful and vibrant all summer long.
So herbal roots can be used to make an autumn root tonic to support your immune system, cleanse your liver, clear your skin, clear your seasonal allergies, and get rid of toxins too. So a lot going on just in one herbal syrup.
Right.
And by taking a daily tonic, you're really being proactive about your health and not just waiting till you get run down or sick to do something about it. So like keeping your health up all fall and all winter.
So first ingredient we're going to talk about, you want to hold it up, Eris, is dandelion root. So dandelions, I think most people know this, they aren't indigenous to North America. So Europeans brought them to North America because they're chock full of so many good things. So the French word for dandelion is, okay, now comes the bad pronunciation thing. And should I explain why?
You have a reason.
I have a reason. So I went to Ridgefield High School. I took French for 6 years. And believe it or not, my teacher was fired for incompetence. Like, you know how crappy a teacher you have to be fired for incompetence? So even though I took 6 years of French, I know very little French. So the French word for dandelion is something like pissenlit. Really, forgive the French accent, but it's not my fault. Which translates to pee the bed. So dandelions are diuretic, and they're just as effective as commercial diuretics. And something I didn't know till we started researching for this presentation is that there's over 100 species of dandelion. I had no idea about that. And a dandelion seed can travel 5 miles before it finally reaches the ground. So when you blow a dandelion, who knows where it's going to wind up.
Yeah. So dandelions have a taproot that can get really long. It can reach up to 15 feet underground. And dandelion has been historically used to treat warts, clear skin, complexion, and also heal blisters.
Ooh. Talk about how you used it the other night.
So we had a fire in our fire pit a few nights ago, and we had like healthy corn syrup free marshmallows. So there's one that was like had cinnamon on the outside of it and cinnamon and sugar, and I dropped it on my thumb, and it actually like burned pretty badly.
Because like sugar can give a bad burn, you know?
Yeah. And I actually tried dandelion leaves on it, and like the dandelion sap from the stalk, and it really cleared it up. Like now it's like you can barely see it. So
yeah, it was pretty bad.
Worked pretty well.
Yep. So moral of the story is either have dandelions on hand or don't make s'mores, right?
Yeah. So dandelion leaves have almost as much iron as spinach and actually 4 times the vitamin A content. They're especially high in antioxidants, which could kind of account for its really strong health benefits.
I think we should talk about antioxidants because antioxidants are the big buzzword. It's so trendy. Dr. Oz is always throwing the word antioxidant around. But I think a lot of people don't really understand what antioxidant means. But I think Eris has a really clear way to describe it, and I think she does it really well.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So, in today's world, it's pretty hard to avoid things called free radicals, which is also a super trendy term, like free radicals. People kind of growing crazy throwing that term around also.
Right.
So free radicals come from stuff like eating a lot of fried food, inhaling tobacco smoke, drinking a lot of alcohol, and also being around pesticides and chemicals. And even if you're pretty like pure like us, like we don't do any of that stuff, we don't drink, we don't drink, smoke.
We're
we
a
don't
couple
eat
of
junk.
nuns, you know, yeah.
You know what I mean.
Right.
But even if you're like
we don't
us,
swear either.
Yeah, that really.
The 2 people I think left in the world who don't swear.
Swearing really causes free radicals. But anyway, even if you're like us and you live pretty like clean lives, you're not safe from free radicals, unfortunately, because even if you don't use any kind of chemicals in your house or you don't eat any kind of junk, you could go outside and your neighbor might have just sprayed a bunch of Roundup or sprayed their trees with chemicals. So that stuff, of course, is getting into the air and the ground and affecting you. So all that stuff, that free radical damage, is called oxidative stress. and that can cause a lot of health issues long term. So antioxidants are really important because they kind of block that free radical stuff from getting into your body, or they just slow it from messing up your cells. So I would say throughout all of history, people could have used antioxidants, but especially now with all the chemicals and like toxic junk and all the stuff in the air, like I think we could really use them a lot.
Yes.
So, eat your dandelions.
Yes.
So dandelion root is also a hepatic, which means it cleanses your liver and gets rid of toxins. And that's one reason why it's good for your skin, because if you cleanse your liver and get that all cleared out, your skin clears up too, which I've seen firsthand works really, really well for your skin. It almost leaves you with like a glowing skin, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, like glowing from within. Like you're
For
pregnant,
real.
but you're not.
Ugh, yeah. So dandelion also has antimicrobial properties, helping to stop the growth of disease-causing bacteria. There's actually a bunch of studies showing that it's effective against bacteria, the bacteria responsible for staph infections and foodborne illness. And it also can help with bacterial infections.
See what we mean? It's like perfect for right now and for what's coming our way.
Yeah, I think people consider it just like a lawn weed, but it's really great.
Right.
Really, really powerful stuff. Yeah. It's also a great source of vitamin K, which you probably know has a major role in bone health. So lower intake of vitamin K can lead to more fractures and just reduced bone density. So eat your dandelions.
Right. So next up is burdock, and you might be thinking now, I don't know what burdock is, but you're going to see, yes you do. So it has large heart-shaped leaves and kind of bright, I would say pinkish red purple flowers that kind of look like thistles. So when I was a little kid, we always just called these things prickers, but this is actually what burdock is. So they kind of see what it looks like?
I think so.
So it has burrs that stick to clothing or animal fur, and the deep roots, the ones that we're going to use, they're kind of brownish green, or they're almost nearly black on the outside. So I thought this was really interesting, but the inspiration for Velcro actually came from burdock. So in 1941, some Swiss guy who was an engineer, I probably should tell you his name, but I can't remember what it was. He went for a walk in the woods, and he wondered about the burrs that were sticking to his woolen socks and to his dog's fur. He wondered if he could turn those things into something useful. So apparently he went back to his lab, played around with some prickers.
Wild day for the guy.
And he named his invention Velcro, and it was patented in 1955.
And they are really strong. Like if you try and kind of pull them apart, it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
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 So burdock is an alternative herb, which means it increases the elimination of waste through the lungs, lymphatic system, skin, kidney, and liver, and bowel. So that helps the body to kind of heal itself and function. And people call alternative herbs, they also call them like blood purifiers or detoxifiers. So it's a really great natural detoxifier.
What are some others? Just tell them.
Some other alternatives are dandelion, cleavers, echinacea, nettle, and clover. So that's also something that I feel like people could use nowadays to help cleanse any kind of toxins that they're taking in.
Mm-hmm.
Burdock root can also increase wound healing, decrease inflammation, and help with sore throats and coughs and pain.
But one thing, you have to be very careful where you pick it, because burdock roots, doing what they're supposed to be doing, they very often filter like chemicals and pesticides from the ground. So like, don't get it from the side of the road. Get it someplace where you're sure there's not pesticides all over it, right? So moving on to astragalus. Should we hold that up?
Astragalus is one of my favorite herbs, for real.
Okay, you're going to hear that about nettle. If there was garlic in this thing, she would say garlic also. But I have to say astragalus, I think because it's so powerful. Yeah, we use astragalus all the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people haven't really heard much about it. But astragalus is an adaptogen, which means it helps your body respond and adapt to stress. So when stressful things come at you, it's almost like you have a bit of a force field up, so they can't really get you. They kind of like bounce off your force field, and they don't mess you up.
But it doesn't matter, because nobody has any stress right now. There's no stress going on in your life, right? None in our lives. None at all, right?
Yeah, so great for stress, anxiety, and just kind of making you stronger overall. And just, if you feel like your health is kind of like, it kind of like lifts it up so you're a little bit more robust and your immune system is really functioning well.
Astragalus.
Yeah.
You need it, especially in 2020.
Yes. So it contains 3 components that allow the plant to have such a positive impact on health. Those are saponins, flavonoids, and polysaccharides.
Oh, you sound so herbal.
So saponins are known for their ability to boost the immune system and also prevent cancer. So that's why they're becoming a kind of trendy thing nowadays, saponins. Flavonoids help to modify the body's reaction to allergens and viruses and carcinogens because they're anti-inflammatory and antiviral and also anti-cancer. Astragalus is really well known in the anti-cancer world, so good one for that. And it has polysaccharides, which have antimicrobial, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory capabilities.
See why we included it in this, right?
Yeah, astragalus is one that we take almost all year round. Like, not so much in the summer, but all the rest of the year.
Yep.
Yeah, we're big fans.
It's on our shelf right over here. Yes. So the last herb in this blend is nettle. So I think, Eris, go ahead. This truly is...
So nettle actually is, for real, my all-time favorite herb.
Yeah, for real. Like garlic she loves, but nettle's it. Why?
When we talk about nettle in our classes, there's always someone who's like, nettle? I hate stinging nettle. It's the worst plant ever.
You don't mean stinging nettle. We're like, yeah, we do.
So stinging nettle, if you've ever run into it, I mean like literally run into it, you're probably not a big fan because it has hairs on the leaves and on the stalk that kind of leave a bit of a sting. It can last a few minutes or overnight if you're really sensitive, but it does go away. So it's not like you're going to die if you run into nettle.
Right.
So it's actually the most nutrient-dense plant that grows on land. Second only to seaweed, which doesn't grow on land, so it doesn't count.
Right.
But if you're worried about the sting, if you dry nettle or if you cook it, like, you know how you cook spinach, like really fast stir fry kind of thing, the sting goes away. So,
or in how we're going to do it today.
Yeah, so you're not going to be stinging your mouth off at all. Like, you'll be totally fine.
So, little fun facts. So, the German army used nettle fabric to make army uniforms during World War I, and it took 100 pounds of nettle to produce one shirt. So stinging nettle also has some other names known as devil's plant, devil's leaf, burnweed, burn hazel, tanging nettle, and bull nettle. And believe it or not, there's something called the World Nettle Eating Championship. Like, why someone entered this, I have no idea. But the record was held by some chef guy, and he ate 52 stalks of raw stinging nettle. So that's 104 feet of raw nettle that he ate in less than an hour.
Like, that would definitely sting your mouth off.
So why someone would do this, I don't know. That'd be a pretty humongous monetary prize for me to do that one. But
pretty extreme.
So if you do herbal research, you always come across either Pliny the Elder or Hippocrates, right? So in 5 BC, Hippocrates said that he listed 61 complaints and disorders that could be treated with nettle.
I believe it.
Yeah. So Roman soldiers are said to have brought their own nettle to the British Isles to treat their tired, painful legs on their long marches, to conquer the British Isles. You want to explain how they used it, Urs?
Yes, what they did something called urtication, which is pretty much you take a nettle stalk, cut it, and then you kind of like whip the part of your body that is in pain or needs some kind of relief with the nettle stalk. So I would think that these guys were kind of like whipping their legs with the nettle. And some people do this for arthritis. So when you whip yourself with nettle, it does leave a bit of a sting. It's not totally pleasant, but it does increase circulation to the area and help relieve pain. Good for, especially people use it for arthritis. So it works really well.
I would try it. Versus a creepy prescription, I would definitely try it, yeah. So at the beginning of World War II, there was a request by the British government was made for the collection of 100 tons of nettles, which they used as dye to dye camouflage clothes. And what I think was really interesting is right now, there's a lot of studies being done on nettle and male pattern baldness. So pretty interesting, huh?
So we have a ton of stories about nettle, but one that's kind of appropriate for this recipe is until about a few years ago, I never had any seasonal allergy symptoms at all, ever. Shoot. And then all of a sudden one fall, I just got the whole, like running nose, all that
sneezing,
allergy jazz.
eyes, blah, blah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that's annoying. So I started making an herbal tea, just as kind of like a natural
just
vitamin and mineral supplement kind of thing.
Not for the allergies at all.
No. Just because I knew there's herbs that can count as vitamins and minerals. So I put in nettle and oat straw and oat tops and alfalfa. And I just drank that all throughout the winter just to kind of keep myself healthy and keep my immune system up and stay nice and strong. So then when the spring came around, I realized I had no allergy symptoms at all, like nothing. And all these other people were sneezing and their noses were running, they were coughing. And I was like, that's really weird. So then I was like, oh, my tea blend, of course, because it had a bunch of nettle in it. So that totally got rid of my allergies. I still drink it pretty much every day.
The secret is
that if you do have allergy symptoms and you want to use nettle for that, take it a while before allergy season comes around. So you can't take it like the day of and expect it to work.
It's not like an over-the-counter Sudafed or prescription sort of thing. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so give it at least a few weeks to start kicking in, but you'll be really, really impressed at the results.
And you're not taking any creepy prescriptions or chemicals.
Yeah.
Right. So, final herb to talk about is ginger.
So ginger is considered a carrier herb, which means it enables other herbs to be more effective in the body. So ginger is warming and decongesting. It's a great remedy in cold and flu recipes, and also helps circulation. Like if you're one of those people where your hands and feet are cold all the time, it'll help to warm that up and you won't have that feeling anymore. I know a lot of people have that issue.
Not me. This is my favorite time of year. I'm coming back to life.
And studies have shown that ginger is really effective in fighting pathogenic strains of viruses and bacteria and fungi. And I think it's another one people are like, yeah, ginger or whatever, but really, really powerful stuff.
It is, yeah. And the final ingredient is honey. So we recommend it's best to use raw or local honey. So regular commercial honey is heated and it's processed and it's strained, which destroys the enzymes and the vitamins and the minerals and the bee pollen. And it's often treated with antibiotics and additives. So if at all possible, you want local raw honey.
Yeah.
Also, I read an article that apparently there's so many people now keeping bees. We had to stop because we had 8 bear attacks, so we don't keep bees anymore. But so many people that are beekeepers now that actually there's a surplus of local raw honey. So you should be, no matter where you live, you should be able to find it.
Mm-hmm. So raw honey contains bee pollen, which can boost immunity and provide natural allergy relief. Because when you consume local pollen, like in the form of raw local honey, you're kind of giving yourself a bit of a seasonal allergy inoculation. So ingesting really small amounts of that pollen so that you're not affected when it actually comes around.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, works very well.
Right.
And honey can also be a natural cough syrup. Studies have shown that it works just as well and effectively as over-the-counter cough syrups, but of course honey doesn't have the dyes and the chemicals and the fragrances and all that junk that cough syrup can have.
Right. So should we talk about what they need for the recipe? Okay.
So, for the recipe, you're going to need 3.5 cups of water.
Which we have right here. I think you all know what water looks like. Obviously, we would suggest you don't use water that's all treated. We have a well, so we use well water.
1/4 cup of dandelion root.
Which we already held that up.
1/4 cup of burdock root. 1/8 cup of astragalus. 1/8 cup of nettle leaf. And then 2 tablespoons of chopped ginger. And then you're going to need a cup of honey in a bit. So, we're going to start with the water. So, in some kind of saucepan.
We should also recommend you're going to need your stove.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So in a saucepan or pot, you're going to put the 3.5 cups of water.
I always get this poured on me during these videos.
Not today.
I'm staying bone dry today.
So then you're going to put it on the stove, bring it to a boil, and then we'll catch you there.
Yep. So now we're over at the other end of our kitchen, waiting for the water to boil. Then a watch pot never boils. So while we're waiting for that to happen, Eris is sitting in front of our 1880s stove and oven. Want to hear the best story about this? So we had a regular white boring stove, and when it died, I always wanted to have one of those Aga stoves, but they're like $10,000, so forget that. So on Craigslist, we found this one in a nearby town in Thomaston, Connecticut for $350. So that was the deal of the century, and believe it or not, I didn't carry this thing in, but it wasn't as bad as you might think because all the pieces come apart. Then we just had to have someone kind of do a little safety check on it, but this is, people come into our house and they go, oh, is that a functional stove? We're like, yeah, of course it is. So, I think,
the water is boiling.
So, to the boiling water, Eris is going to add 1/4 cup of dandelion.
Can I get the right one there?
Yep. So just popping this into the boiling water. So did you turn down or anything? It's still,
not yet.
Okay. 1/4 cup of the burdock root. 1/8 cup of astragalus root. 1/8 cup of the nettle leaf. I love that jar. And 2 tablespoons of chopped, I was going to say vinegar, chopped ginger.
It smells so good.
It smells good.
So then...
And as you know, there's honey in this recipe, but the honey's not coming up right now. So what's happening now, Eris?
So then you put the lid on, put it down to a simmer, and let it simmer for about 40 minutes. Okay?
So...
And we'll see you in 40 minutes.
So, we're back. So this pot has been simmering for 40 minutes. So now what, Eris?
So after making 1,000,000 herbal syrups, we figured out the simplest way to finish it up and take out a bunch of extra steps that I think are just annoying and not really necessary. So, you're going to get our little secret here.
Right. So in this jar, what size is this jar?
I think it's a 4-cup mason jar.
Right. We have measured 1 cup of local raw honey. So That's part of the secret. Put the honey in the jar.
Yeah, you put it right in the jar without measuring it, because the mason jars, if you get the kind that we get, they have the measuring thing right on there. So
I guess what we're saying is we try not to measure honey because you lose so much of it in measuring cups and it's so expensive. So try not to. Yeah, that's our secret.
So
Number 1.
we have my favorite funnel. Has a strainer in it, which is like the best thing in the whole world. So
here's my theory. Only a loser would have a favorite funnel.
So if you don't,
favorite T-ball also. Whoa!
If you don't have a fancy funnel like that, you can choose a strainer and a funnel combined.
Right.
So you're gonna take your stuff in your pot. Wow, that's pretty steamy.
Wait, see, we're not making this up. This is for real.
And then you're gonna pour it right into the mason jar.
Do you see how brave I am?
I think you should move your hand.
Okay.
I have a bad habit of pouring stuff on my mom when we do videos. So.
Yes, it's true.
And I'm getting it all over the counter too. But
that's all right. That's okay.
Okay. So just let it strain out for a second to get some of the drips.
Let me just see what it looks like in this. I guess you can see what it looks like in the seeds. That's how it looks.
Just like strained herbs. So you just throw your strainer in your pot and just deal with that later. So then, obviously this is super hot, so we would highly recommend putting on pot holders or using a dish towel, because if you touch the jar, it will be hot.
But people always say you should never pour boiling liquid into one of these mason jars. We do this all the time, and people that do canning, they put this in boiling stuff. So
yeah, so if it's like a junky glass jar, maybe you don't do it this way. But if it's a mason jar,
an official mason jar, right?
So you're just gonna shake it up. The point is that you're trying to mix up the hot liquid with the honey, because once it cools down, it doesn't really mix up very well. But once it's hot, it mixes pretty nicely. So definitely takes a few shakes.
Now, if we were Martha Stewart, somebody would appear to wipe this counter up, but we're going to clean the counter up after we're done. But who cares? So what?
Okay, so that's pretty good. So you just want it to obviously be mixed, the liquid and the honey. So you'll know when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So then your syrup is done. I would just recommend letting it sit on the counter for a few hours to cool down. And then you can put it in the fridge. Just store it in the fridge. And for a dosage, we take an ounce every day. So I just put it in a shot glass and take it at night.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it tastes pretty good. Like, it's not gross at all.
Starting right now and continuing, how long would you say?
Like, this is something that I take all year round, actually. So you can take it all year round. You can just take it for the fall, and then
I would definitely take it in the winter. Yeah. I mean, you could ease off in the spring if you chose to, and move on to something else. But definitely starting now and continuing through winter.
Yeah.
Yes, 1 shot glass.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So happy brewing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we hope to see you again in real life very, very soon. We want our real lives back just like you do. But for now, we're enjoying these videos, right?
Yeah, and stay healthy.
Yep. So, good night.
Bye.